Hello and welcome to the Ditty. I'm Zara.
And I'm Ian. And it's quite a rapid one this week. We only
Yes,
did one the other day, and now we're doing another one.
I know.
Good
We're
God.
crackheads.
People will be sick of us.
Yes, I'm sick of us. I'm sick of myself every day
Well,
anyway.
yeah, I'm just sick. But
Yep.
I have to say, before we do anything, I'm actually recording from a different room in my
Okay.
mansion today. I have
Yep.
so many.
You're in the East
And
Wing.
yes, I am. Um, so if there's a little bit of background noise behind me, it's several of my cars
Ah,
passing my extremely large window.
yes.
I just thought I'd let people know. So,
Noted. Very important.
yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
right then. So, I've got to pose a question today
Yeah.
for you to
Mm-hmm.
throw shit at me with.
Okay.
All
I'm a
right.
bit scared now.
Well, so am I because, well, so on that basis, let's begin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you consider
Oh dear.
to be the finest musical decade?
Oh dearie me. Um, shit. That's actually very, very difficult. So I really like much of the 80s,
Okay.
but I have very much been enjoying um, more recent country music and recent as in the last 2 or 3 years to the point where it almost makes up my entire uh, daily discovery because I listen to it so much.
All right. Well, I'm based, well, as you know, and most people that have listened to a lot of what we do will know I'm based in the 80s, and he's not getting away from that. I mean, it was a point you made the other day, well, on the last podcast regarding the sticky years.
Yes.
That just sounds wrong,
It
but
it is, but for some reason, it made sense to people who read it,
okay.
and it's like the years that stick with them rather than
Yeah.
like whatever you've just mentioned there. It's gross.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just, when you say it out loud, it takes on kind of a sinister tilt. But,
Yeah.
or is that just me?
No, I think a lot of people are thinking that, but maybe I should clarify a little bit when I mean that. I don't mean like Rick Astley and Madonna and like Duran Duran. I don't mean like that kind of popular 80s stuff. I also don't even mean like Whitney Houston. Like I'll sing along to these and everybody knows the song. I think stuff like Michael Jackson is a yes. And I know that's controversial now, and that's fine. But I think some of his work was incredible. Queen could take it or leave it. Simple Minds, I do like. The Smiths, I do like. The Cure, I do like. This one's cheesy, but Men at Work also. I do.
Oh, you
I
got a
do.
love for them, ain't you?
I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
I do like a bit of cheese as well. I'm not, I'm gonna be like, oh, I've never listened to that. I do love cheesy music as well, but I also quite enjoy Leonard Cohen from that time. I think his stuff around that and into the 90s was good. Who else? Let me think. Oh, I can't even think now. But I think maybe that's a good kind of example
Yeah.
of it's not
It's
it's not
it's a
like
good
the
base
pop
to work from,
hits.
isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah, it's not the pop hits, but then that said, at the same time, I really like Prince as well, and Prince was, maybe more poppy. So
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I tend to. I mean, I liked a lot of the what you would consider chart acts back in the 80s, but I did tend to veer away from them towards the more. I'm not going to say obscure, but the lesser known. Beloy's some
yeah.
people like that. Nash the Slash is another one. Folk like that. It's Sisters of Mercy,
Oh
The
yeah.
Damned, Gary Newman we've spoken about before. He was more mainstream, I suppose, but his work was lesser known because I mean a lot of people all they knew him for was his singles. So a lot of people didn't really know that much about him and his album work. So that kind of thing. Japan, as we've discussed before,
Hmm.
the band that was big but never was big.
Yeah, Roxy Music also.
Roxy Music,
Mm,
Ultravox,
yeah.
all of those kind of bands is my kind of musical era.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably because I listened to it a lot because it was always on in the car and stuff. But I also really enjoyed the new metal in the 90s with Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, fucking Korn, all of that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed that as well.
yeah, me
Um,
too. I mean, I've
um,
sort of you kind of you develop with the times, don't you? You develop with the music that's around you. But I think for me, if I had to nail one, if I had to go down and say, right, this defined my musical likes and dislikes, it would be the 80s.
yeah, I think so. I think mine's probably in that kind of thingy as well. I'm trying to think like on a day-to-day basis what I would listen to most. And it probably would be there's two playlists. So it's the 2024 country hits. That's probably one of my go-tos. There's about 50 tracks on that. And one of my other ones would be one that I've mentioned quite a few times, and it's called If We Took Coke and Went Driving.
Yes.
And these are very kind of in the same style slash era, I guess. So there's like Fleetwood Mac on there, Blue Oyster Cult, Blondie, The Kinks, Prince, Boston, Foreigner. They're a little bit earlier, but that kind of Talking Heads. Oh man, Talking Heads, yeah.
Oh, Talking Heads, yeah.
Yeah, all that kind of Echo and the Bunnymen, Tears for Fears, all that kind of stuff's on there. So I think that's very yeah, I think that's very of that kind of time as well.
Thing
Like I
is
said,
though,
yeah.
a lot of that kind of those acts, if you like Blondie, Tears
Mm.
for Fears, the Kinks, people like that,
Mm.
they're still very relevant today.
I just when you asked that question and I was reeling a couple of them off, I think now that those bands are more popular than they were then. And
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think we spoke about this before with like uh clothing chains putting like the Cure on, the Rolling Stones on t-shirts. The Ramones was a big one for a long time. Now it's like Nirvana and so on. And I think having those printed on t-shirts, people bought them because they look cool. Then they go and find the bands. Then they listen to the bands. Then their friends listen to the bands. And then their friends and friends listen to the bands. And I think it goes a little bit like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably
Mm,
right. So if you, I mean,
mm,
to pick a particular artist, not
shoot.
necessarily from the 80s, as
Right.
I probably would because that's where I'm based.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to pick a particular artist out that has sort of given you the most influence in what you listen to, whether it be new or old,
Oh.
because you do find a lot of new artists have that old feel and they will take you back, if you know what I mean.
I do. I do. So the artist I probably listen to the most, full stop, and there's probably nothing that come close, would be Hozier.
Right.
And let me just check when his first song released because it would have been at that point. See if I can find it. 2013. There you go. That was his debut single. Was "Take Me to Church." 2013.
I think you know what? I think everybody knows that, whether they know it or not. If you
Yeah.
played it, I would say 80% of the people that heard that would go, yeah, I didn't know who it was, but I know that song.
Yes. And from the back of that, he released his first album, I don't know, probably the year following or something. And Take Me to Church is not one of the songs that I actually go back to and play, but of that album, I will listen to every single song. This is a no skip for me, which actually has never come up in our no skip conversation, I think.
No, I don't think it has.
I don't think so, but it's a self-titled, so it's Hozier Hozier. Um, but that is a no skip. And um from this album, based on this alone, not Take Me to Church, the album, I own or listen to the rest of them. And from going through his writing credits and his features, I found other artists that I continue to listen to. And it was
Yeah.
also, yeah, so he actually featured on someone else's song, Noah Khan, and it came up on my For You or whatever it was, like I don't know, not long after it was released, because there's two versions. Noah Khan does it by himself, and he has Hozier on it, but it was the Hozier feature I heard first, obviously, because that's what I listened to. And from that, I bought the Noah Khan vinyl that I was talking about last week, the Bone one, the 3 LP, all that
Three-disc one,
kind of.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So potentially that would be it. But then that's 12 years of listening. So I think that's a very solid, because it's 2025 now, and that's been since 2013. So that's, yeah, 12 years of solid listening. And then, damn, that's long.
It is long.
That is long. Jesus.
Yeah. I think it's dedication, isn't it? Really.
It
I
is
mean, my God,
kinda.
you're loving that sound.
Yeah, but I think it's so he experiments a lot with different sounds. Like he'll work with an orchestra, or he'll work with like a church, or he'll work with like other singer-songwriters. And while all of his work doesn't sound the same, you know that it's him from the writing style, or at least. So when I heard the Noah Khan, he was on it, I knew he hadn't written it, but it's not because I opened Tidal to see. I was like, oh, okay, who's this? It wasn't because I checked it. I just had this. Okay, so he sounds similar, but that's not him. And then Noah Khan, his album sounds like him, but the two. Does that make sense?
Kinda, yeah.
But yeah, like so, I knew that what I was listening to, it wasn't a Noah Khan with a Hozier. Wasn't Hozier with a Noah Khan feature. It was the other way around without
Yeah,
checking.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
I
yes,
think
yep.
sometimes you can have the vocal elements of
Hmm.
one and the musical elements of another, and
Yeah,
you can pick them out. You
and
can pick them out.
yeah, so while they're probably in the same vein, very strongly in the same vein, they're very different. Who was yours be then?
What my influence?
Yeah, who would you, if you could?
Hmm.
I mean, it is difficult. So I kind of just went with like, who have I listened to an excessive amount by my
Yeah,
standards? And then the other one would be Snow Patrol, and I think we've had that. That's 18 years or something. I've been listening to
yeah,
Snow
yeah.
Patrol. Um, I want to point out, like, not dedicated every day listening, but regular enough to, you know, I can
Yeah,
kind of,
I
yeah,
think if I was gonna land onto one, I would probably go with Roxy Music,
that would make sense. Yeah.
because to me, you know, they there was a lot of other bands around at that time, and we've discussed them before. You know, like your Japans, your Ultravox, your Tears for Fears, bands like that that were, you know, also very good. But for me, I think there was a certain sound that they produced constantly, and it just kind of yeah, I just liked what they did. For, you know, there's not a great deal that they've done that I don't that I would, you know, would turn around and say no, that's just poor. Because, and I know I said to you, you know, we discussed in the last pod about certain artists having maybe two or three good albums in them.
Yeah.
Um, I think Roxy Music were a little bit of a kick away from that, because, you know, the majority of their albums were very good, in my opinion. I mean, the Flesh and Blood album, which is a personal favourite. You got the Avalon album, you got the Siren album. You know, it just goes on, and I don't think that they have released a bad album. I don't think they have.
Do you think
So
that? artists that are consistent with their albums are more authentic to what it is that they're trying to produce from the start. And I think we spoke about with Gary Newman, he's got some wavy albums that are not brilliant. But then we also spoke about that there's a period where it looks like he was doing what he wanted to do, and those albums are fantastic. And maybe if he'd carried on in that vein rather than changing what he was doing to people please or whatever, it would be different.
I think if you say, we'll say Gary Newman just as an example, if
Mm.
you put all of his albums alongside each other and drew a line, and then if you sort of moved them like you would the sliders on a graphic equalizer, I think there would be a definite drop through the middle where he's tried to alter what he's done. And we spoke about this quite a lot. Alter what he's done to try and suit whatever was around at the time to keep his music relevant, which is commendable, I suppose. But
Mm-hmm.
you tend to come away from who you are as an artist. Recently, his newer material has gone back to that level of the original, say, first 3 or 4 albums.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, anyway. But when you talk about somebody like Roxy Music, that line has always stayed very much the same. So I think from their earlier albums up to their later albums, I think like Avalon, I think was the last album as Roxy. It's you could listen to one of the like Flesh and Blood and then go straight to Avalon, and you wouldn't hear a difference in the sound that they're producing and the vocals and the style of vocal and the lyrical content. It stayed pretty much the same throughout, and I think that's where their longevity came from, for me anyway, because you could kind of go, right, okay, I've got a little rack of albums there, and they're all Roxy Music albums. You can pull one out, whichever one it is, put it on, and it's gonna, you're gonna like it. Whereas with Newman, if you did the same thing and you took one album out, you could hit one of those mid albums and not enjoy it. So,
But then,
to me, that it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird old thing, but yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of torn because then it means that they wouldn't ever experiment outside of if like, oh, what am I trying to say? If because the albums don't sound the same. The work in each one is different,
Yeah,
but they have like a signature sound.
yeah,
And then you've got taking Gary Newman again. He's not the only one, but because it's so recent in my mind, unfortunately, he's just getting it all. And he just went and experimented in all these other things. Is there like then some artists are playing it too safe and only producing exactly what it is that they've done, like
it
rinse
may
and
well
repeat
be, yeah,
almost?
it
And
may
then is
well
that
be the
boring?
case, yeah. It, I suppose I suppose if it's not a sound that you enjoy, I think if it's not a band that you like, then yeah, I would imagine it would. But if it's somebody that you don't really follow that keenly, but you kind of go, right, I didn't mind that album or I didn't mind that song from this era of his recording career, and then you play something a bit further on, and it's so different. I don't know so much, I like that, but I've left it for a little while and I've come back to them, whoever they may be, and I've
Yeah.
listened to this new song and it's not very good. You know, it's expectations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear a band, when you know a band from way back when,
Yeah.
and if you haven't, and it was like we spoke before about the visual of an artist and seeing them back in whenever you saw them, and then going back and seeing them now, and some old guy comes on the stage and you go, "Who the fucking hell's this?" And it's how you remember things, and I think sometimes that is it's safety for you. You know, you want things to be as you remember them. So if I said, "Oh, I'm going to go and see Simple Minds," but they've got a whole new setup and a whole new sound now,
Y-
and I didn't know that, and I went to see them expecting, you know, what they used to produce back in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I'd, you know, how disappointed would you be?
I
That's the
think
thing.
very, because you've got that idea in your head of who you're going to, and what's presented in front of you isn't that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. And I
Yeah.
think for me, with Roxy Music, that's what you got. You could have gone and seen them back in 1978, and they would have been all right. They'd have looked very different. But then if you go and see them now, although they're not performing as a band now, but if they were and you went to see them now, you could almost guarantee that okay, the visual's gone, but the sound is still going to be there.
Yeah.
Whereas um, whoever else it will be, I'm going to use Simple Minds again. If you know, because I don't really know a lot of their work, but they had a particular sound way back when, and if they've changed that sound now to suit people that are listening now, that's not what you want. You did want to hear that. You wanted to go and see them and hear what you used to hear then, and to go and watch them now and hear something that's very different. You might as well have gone and watched some startup band off the street.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's how it works for me anyway. And I know that everybody's different, and a lot of people will go, well, they'll disagree, you know, 100% with what I've been saying, but I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but that's what
Yeah,
makes
of
music interesting. There's room for a lot of opinion
course there is.
on
And
what
everybody's
people
opinion is
think.
valid.
Yeah, I
Everybody's
think so.
opinion is valid because if everybody listened to and liked the same thing, where would you be?
It would be very, very, very boring.
Well, it would.
Um, yes. Okay, so on the back of that, kind of, is there one band that you will never skip aside from Roxy Music? Like if it was to come up in a random playlist, because I think you said before you're a skipper, you like digital. Fuck it, I'm not
Oh, I
listening to
do.
that.
I really am. I really am. I'm
Yeah.
terrible
Is
for
there
it. I
one
don't,
that come up that you never skip, that you go like, nah, that's fine.
Pink Floyd.
That was very easy, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Because, I mean, okay, their music has changed slightly over the years, um, but it's remained the same also. It comes
Yeah.
on, you know who it is.
I
They're a weird one. They're a weird one because, like I say, they have changed over the years. Roxy Music, you know, you could pick any album out of anywhere and it's the same. I know that's going to be boring to a lot of people, but if you know what I mean, it's not the same song every single time. I mean,
Yes.
but they've got that sound and they've got that feel and they've got that presence to them. Um, and the same with Pink Floyd, even though a lot of the times they have altered because they've had, you know, the changes in band members and such, like Sid Barrett going wherever he went and uh, Roger Walters going and starting up on it. Well, he didn't so much start up on his own, but they had that big row and he left the band and it became David Gilmour more or less on his own. Um, so obviously things were going to take a change, but
Mm,
because Gilmour was your main guitarist, they stayed the same. If you understand what I mean,
yes, I do.
he'd
Yeah,
always
yeah.
had that signature sound of David Gilmour, which was the signature sound of the band, really. So although things changed lyrically, and you would notice that it remained the same. The same little markers were in there that would say to you, "Yeah, that's them." So yeah, for me, I think Pink Floyd. Another one I could throw in, um, I think would be Ramstein.
Completely different ends of the spectrum there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But they are one of those bands, even though you ain't got a fucking idea what they're going on about.
Yeah.
The sound that they produce is so powerful that it just kind of holds you there. You kind of go, yeah, yeah,
You know what? I don't know if I've necessarily got artists like a singular, but there's songs that I will never skip. I think there's like 4 or 5 songs that I will never skip, and I think 3 of them are from the same band. But then,
right.
so I will never skip "This Must Be the Place," Talking Heads, "Once in a Lifetime," Talking Heads, right? "Burning
Hmm.
Down the House," Talking Heads. I'll
Okay.
never, ever, ever, ever skip them, ever. But that's not to say that if it was like, was it Slippery People came on, I'll sometimes skip that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and there's also, let me think, The Associates, Party Fears 2. I'll never, ever, ever skip that song, ever.
Oh, you do love that song, don't you?
I do, yeah. And in fact, if it was on in a shop, which never happens, I would stay in the shop until it finished. Such is my dedication to never, if I hear it, then I'm going to listen to it. But
Fair enough.
then I would probably skip almost every other thing. But that particular song I'll listen to forever and a day. But I don't know if there's any artists that I will never ever skip. Just like singular, like that's me, that. But those would probably be my, but yeah, but 3 of them are from the same artist, but so don't
That
even
kind of
know what
points you down a little road, doesn't it?
it does a little bit, but then I can't actually remember a time where I've skipped any track when the Talking Heads have been on. I can't remember skipping it, but that's not to say I wouldn't. But to my recollection, I have not skipped. Hmm.
The only time I've skipped Talking Heads, I was listening to the Stop Making Sense album,
Mm-hmm.
which was the live album, which is very, very good. And I think part of their set list is the Tom Tom Club, if you remember them.
Mm-mm.
I think the bass guitarist woman, don't know her name, and the drummer make up the Tom Tom Club, and they had a couple of songs released back in the day, and part of their set was they did a couple of the Tom Tom Club songs, and I was like, no, I was never big on them, so I just kind of skipped over them ones. But apart from that, I think, no, I do like Talking Heads.
Me too. And the thing is, I couldn't even say it's easy listening because it's definitely not. Like I think they're quite I don't know. I don't know why I like them. I just do. I think that
I
their
think they're
intros,
quirky. They're
that's it.
quirky, is
Yeah.
what it is. Um, you know, is it David Byrne?
I think so. No,
David Byrne.
I can't even tell you. That's the whole point.
I think
I
that's
can't
it. I
even
think
tell
it's
you.
David Byrne, the front man, with his big suit. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's just, when you see the visual of them. I mean, they're a good band in themselves, but the visual of them is very good, and you kind of go, that's what makes it. That's what a lot of people, you say to people, Talking Heads, and the first thing they think is that big suit.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people don't realize that the Psycho Killer, the song that almost everybody knows,
yeah,
is actually who we're talking about.
yes, yeah. Which is, in fairness, is what that album opens up with.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Him with the acoustic guitar and a little beatbox,
Yeah.
little drum machine thing, doing Psycho Killer. Very good.
Oh,
If you ever get the
well,
chance, watch the video of it rather than listen to it as an album. Watch the video,
noted, and I will do.
because it's
On
been
that,
said that it was the finest um, music concert video ever made.
really?
Yeah, I don't agree with that, but it is very good.
Oh, yeah. Mm. Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that I think that's a pretty good question and answer. So just for people who
Yep.
are listening, we're going to try and stick to a topic rather than doing 145 segues and going off on a tangent.
Yep.
And cover more topicy kind of things.
It's
And
not easy
sometimes
though,
topical. It's not actually. I had to
It's
catch
not.
myself a few times there.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I wanted to talk about the fact that I've just finished watching Yellowstone.
Don't say anything
Um,
because I haven't.
okay, I'm not going to say anything about the program, but I will talk about the music in the program, which is, very country music and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And I don't know how this has happened, but I'm very happy that it has. On my daily discovery today, I listen to like Lainey Wilson and all that kind of stuff anyway. But today I have the Turnpike Troubadours, Good Lord
Okay.
Laurie. And if you have finished Yellowstone, you'll know the band that I'm talking about and at which point that they play. And I was just absolutely delighted to see it. Like, I can't explain to you how happy I was. And it also, I started listening to Luke Grimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and because I am almost 100% sure he's come up on one of my previous daily discoveries. And it wasn't until I was watching Yellowstone that I was like, wait a second. And I matched the face up to the face and I was like, oh my God. So I've been listening to that this week as well.
Cool.
Very country music. Yeah, it
Well,
is.
for now, as a last thing, we'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you that I'm now going to go and listen to the new album that I got from The Generator.
What have you got today?
Charles Mingus,
That's
jazz,
really
jazz
no,
bass.
I quite like jazz. I've got the Genius of Ray Charles today.
Oh, nice. So we both ain't kind
Quite
of era. Yeah, Charles Mingus. Very happy about that. I'm going to go and I'm not even going to go and put it on my headphones. That's going through the speakers, mate. No messing. I'm going to
yes,
go
it
and
is.
annoy your mum with it.
All right, and then one more thing before we go. What's a song that you've listened to this week that you think other people should be listening to?
I mentioned this to you today, and it is that Little Sims song.
Yes. Little Sims with a bong jar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I forget of it.
Um, I can't remember what it's called either.
I will tell you in the next very because
It's not
I
Point
had
and
to.
Kill. Was it Flood?
But yeah,
Flood.
go
Very
for that.
good.
Even though I can't remember the fucking name of it, I am.
Yep,
It's a great song. That's as
it
much as I
is.
do know. That's what I've been listening to this week. Gone through a few of
Cool.
her other bits and bobs. I wasn't a big fan, but that
Mhm.
song is very good.
I really like, just before we go, Little Sims 101 FM. There you go.
We shall get them put into the notes.
Cool. Right. Thanks for joining us, all the peoples who have joined us. And if you stayed till the end, thanks.
Yeah, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
Cheers. Bye.
See you later.
Yeah.